Hi, I wanted to take a second and to introduce myself. I am Jenna Fox, and I am an instructor here at Bellevue College. And I've actually been invited to, come and share with you all through this video some of the advice that I have to incoming students and their families to sort of ease the transition from the high school setting to college. You could kind of think of me as like a Disneyland tour guide, right? So, one of the things that I think is really important for students to know and to just keep in mind when they are entering into the college environment, first of all, I like to think about higher education and community colleges and universities from the perspective of culture, right? There are certain words and certain customs and ways that things are done on a college campus that are different. The high school campus is different than the workforce. And so it's kind of important to know when you come to campus virtually or in person that there's going to be a way that things are done. And as somebody who's worked in the college system for a long time, I'm really keenly aware of how I am fluent in the language of the college. Things are always changing, but by and large, I am fluent in the language of community college and higher education. And a lot of students aren't. And so we'll be having these conversations with staff members and other instructors and stuff, and I can tell, oh, a student, they don't know what's happening, right? Sort of if I was traveling outside of, America and maybe they're using English, but it's Australian English and I don't really understand the slang or what's going on or how do I order this or we're driving on a different side of the road. Okay. So thinking about college that way can be really helpful, right? We're learning a new culture. And one of the things that's really, really important to know about the college environment, and I'm going to be speaking from my perspective as an instructor, as a teacher, as a faculty member, which is just another word for instructor, okay? This is my perspective, but I also talk to a lot of instructors, right? And I've been paying attention to things, and I'm noticing some of the situations that happen with students on campus. So, how is college different than high school? Well, it's not required, right? It's not a law that you go to college. Your family might want you to go to college. It might feel like you have to, but it's not a law. It's not like high school, which is compulsory, which is something that you have to do, right? And so instructors, faculty, staff members, we assume that you're here by choice because technically you are, right? You're here by choice, okay? And then it's also important to know that requirements of the college are different than in high school. So one of the things that I notice with my students is when they get their schedule, they're kind of surprised that they're only taking 2 or 3 classes, or maybe they're super relieved. They're like, yes, I'm only in 3 classes. It's going to be so easy. I have all of these other responsibilities that are, maybe I'm a student athlete or family. And so, I have siblings and I'm taking care of them, or I work a full-time job or a part-time job, or I have a social life and I want to hang out. So at the community college level, 12 credits is considered full-time. Many students take 15 or 16 credits because a lot of the classes on campus are 5 credits each. So if you're taking 3 classes, it's 15 credits, unless it's a 6-credit science class. For every hour that you're in class, so that 5-credit English class, let's take for example, that's 5 instructional hours. If it's a traditional year where we're on campus, it's probably going to be 5 hours in a classroom with a teacher talking at you and you're doing group work, if you're writing papers, you're reading, and you're kind of engaging in a classroom, right? And then the expectation, that's called the Cornell rule. The expectation is that for every hour you have in class, or that credit hour, right, you're going to have 2 hours of homework. Yikes, right? So that 5-credit English class should take about 15 hours a week. If you're in 15 credits, that's about 45 hours of schoolwork a week. So on paper, it looks like less work because you're in fewer classes, but it's actually much more work than even if you were in, 4 or 5, 6 classes in high school, or it can be, right? So knowing that that's the expectation, I think is really, really important coming into the environment, because if you're trying to juggle a part-time job or a full-time job and extracurricular activities and a full workload, I think it's important for you to know, and I think it's important for your family to know and your friends to know that actually this little amount of work over here is actually a lot of prep time behind the scenes and doing assignments and studying, etc. Right? Because I don't know about you though, 45 hours sitting at a computer during this online learning atmosphere, that's where the virtual environment to the classroom environment can feel really different. My eyes just sometimes, ooh, right? One of the things I always encourage my students is to know yourself, right? Is to know yourself. What are you capable of? What are you hoping to get out of your time in college? Knowing that you're here by choice, what is that? What is that choice like? What are you trying to pursue, right? I want to talk to you for a second too about your instructors, right? Because these are pretty important people that you're going to be interacting with, teaching your class. Who are these instructors? Okay. So the people that are hired by the college to teach your classes have a master's or a doctorate in their subject area. So they're kind of considered experts in their area, right? However, not everybody works full time. So when you're at a high school, your teacher gets there at 7:30 in the morning or 7 in the morning, right? And they have to be there until 4 p.m. or 4:30 p.m. And then some of them coach, etc. The way that colleges, universities have this too, is that there are a certain portion of your instructors, your faculty, that are full-time. They're there on campus and they teach a set amount, and they're paid a salary, and they're there and they're full-time people. And that out of 10 people, that's about 3 of them are full-time. The other 7, so it's about 70%, are what are called adjunct or part-time faculty. And I really think that this is important for students to know, because part-time faculty may be just teaching one class on campus, and then they might go to a full-time job at Microsoft or a nonprofit in the area, or maybe they're working at several different colleges, or maybe they're a stay-at-home parent and they teach one class online. So knowing who your instructors are and how they engage with the college system is important too, right? Because you're going to probably need to get a hold of them. What is their best contact? If they're teaching a 6 a.m. English class, or sociology class, which I've known instructors who do this, and then they zip on over to their nonprofit, how do you get in touch with them? Because they don't have an office for you to call or just drop by, because they're not there. So what do, right? This is where it's so important for students to know about their syllabus, okay? And I think that many high schools give students a syllabus and students are like, whatever, right? Your syllabus that you're given on the first day of class is the contract with you and that instructor, okay? And in the language of consent, this is really what you're consenting by choice to agree to, this syllabus. Now, at the college level, right, we have the ability in the first 10 days of the quarter to drop a class if it's not working for you. And there's different, refunds available if you're just like, wow, this is just not really what I signed up for. It's not working with my life, or it's harder than I thought. It's not like I'm trying to encourage students to just like drop classes left and right. But when you get a syllabus on that first day of the quarter, you're able to see what expectations from this instructor, and how do they want to be contacted. What are their office hours? And office hours are times that instructor has dedicated, set aside for students to come and ask questions, to get advice on their homework. And those are standing appointments weekly, where if they have an office, they're in the office and you can come by, or you can schedule things by appointment. But it's really important to know in the syllabus, how does an instructor want to be contacted? Is it that they want you to call them? Is it that they have a different email address that you want to use? Is it that they want you to message them through Canvas, which is the online platform that is where the classes are held online to turn in homework? Other things to think about or to read in the syllabus is like grading policy. Is this class based on tests? Is it based on participation? If I miss more than 2 or 3 or 4 days of class, what happens? If I get, a 93% in the class, am I going to be at an A minus? Am I going to be at an A? Does this instructor offer extra credit? Getting a really good sense of what am I actually signing up for, right? Because if you continue after that withdraw date where you can get a refund, the instructor assumes because you're willing there by choice that you're consenting to the rules that they have set up, right? And that you're aware of how things are going to go for the next 11 weeks until the end. So some things to really think about, especially as far as like grades go, because I know a lot of students are really concerned about grades, is to be looking at a grading scheme or how an instructor sets up how you get points in the class. I had a student a couple of years ago who was really thinking about dropping a class because they had not done great on an exam. And so I was like, well, before we drop this class, what if we look at the syllabus and see what the grading scheme is? And it turns out that all exams in this instructor's class were only worth about 30% of the overall grade. So participation, assignments, group work, all of these other things were this huge portion of the grade. And they did have exams and they did need to study for exams, but not getting an A+++ on this one exam didn't really bring their grade down much. On the other hand, there are classes where there might be just 2 tests and that's your whole grade. And yeah, you have to come to class because you have to study and you have to learn the material, but it all hangs on the balance of those 2 tests. That can be really stressful. So what are you signing up for, right? Now, I want to give a little bit of advice as far as getting in touch with your instructors. I mean, if we're in an in-person class, I always think students should introduce themselves. As an introvert, sometimes I would be hesitant to introduce myself to an instructor on the first day or, even the first week, right? Using your Bellevue College email address, though, is really, really, really important. I know that we all have our special email addresses that we're just so attached to. We always want to forward things to our Gmail or our Hotmail or our Yahoo, whatever. But using the Bellevue College email address is really, really important because the way that the server, it flags different emails. And sometimes as an instructor, I don't see a student's email that has been sent from outside of the Bellevue College system because it could potentially be spam, or I could open it up and it could hack my whole account or whatever. So use your Bellevue College email address. And then I want you to think about things like email is forever, and there's a written record of what you have said, what they have said. That can be really a good thing, right? If you ask your instructor for extension and then they say yes, and then they don't give it to you, you have a record of it. But it's also a record of what might happen if you're hot-headed in a moment and you accidentally, just kind of get angry. And that could come back and not be so great in the end for you as well. One thing, if you're here with a parent, or if you're a family member watching this, one thing that I really want to encourage is for students to connect with their instructors. Students connect with their instructors, okay? Many instructors, teachers, professors, faculty, whatever you want to call us, many of us don't email with parents, guardians, family members, etc. on a regular basis. There are actually, at the community college level, there is it's called FERPA, which is, again, when we go back to the culture of higher education discussion, right? That's an acronym, stands for Family Educational Right to Privacy Act. that is different at the community college level than it is at high school. And so that's a conversation that a lot of instructors, they may not want to or be willing to actively email or talk on the phone with somebody's parent, because the students, are of age and they're, they're here and they're enrolled, and that primarily we want to speak with students. Okay. So if you're thinking about student advocacy, because that gets thrown around a lot, I think it's really important for students to advocate for themselves, but kind of like, what do we mean by that? I think that all emails and contacts should come from the student to the instructor, or the college staff. I think it should be done in a way that is, keeping in mind that there's going to be a record of this, keeping in mind that we want to have good manners, right? I understand that a lot of students are writing stuff on their, on their cell phones, and sometimes we don't capitalize things, but kind of trying to stay polite, if we can. And then, of course, I am willing to speak with a parent if there's a dire emergency happening, etc. But one thing I will say is the college isn't a restaurant, right? So sometimes I get these requests where it's a little bit like I'm at a hamburger joint. Somebody's like, well, I want a gluten-free bun, and please substitute the Swiss cheese. I would like cheddar, extra ketchup, and leave off the tomato. And as an instructor, I'm kind of taken aback because I actually can't provide legally for students special accommodations that are outside of what the law talks about with students that fall under the Disability Resources Center. So if a student has, a need, I try to accommodate students. I try to accommodate the whole class. But sometimes parents will ask if their student can get extra time on something, or they'll tell me some stuff about their student, or they want to meet with me, and I prefer to meet with students themselves and let's talk about it. Let's come to office hours and show up. And it's so great for students to know that they need help on something, right? When we say advocacy, we're not saying like, I deserved an A on this. Because again, we're going back to, and we're remembering that the person who is teaching those classes is an expert in their field. And we might be used to getting A's on everything, and suddenly we're at the college level. Like, I'll just give a little story. I was an English major, and I had already taken 6 years of high school English when I went to university to become an English major. And I didn't get A's on all my papers. I even had to go to the tutoring center and get some writing help, because even to this day, a gosh dang comma splice will get me every single time, right? I would just put commas everywhere in a paper, just like confetti. And so I think it's important for students to know, yeah, we want a really good GPA. We want to do really well in this class, but it's about learning the material. And kind of that demanding for the good grade, or I worked really hard and I deserve it. If your instructor has a rubric and they've given, the explanations and doesn't, I want you to think about that, okay? But I want you to also think about the fact that legally, if student A comes and asks me for, I had a really hard time, and my car broke down and I had a really hard time this weekend, and I just need more time on this essay. I give student A extra time on this essay, and student N over here finds out about it, I could be sued, because that would me giving this student preferential treatment and this student not. So if I'm going to be giving student A something, I need to offer it to the whole class, right? I need to offer that flexibility and be like, you know what, you guys all can have an extra day on an assignment. And you will find that a lot of instructors are not willing to kind of just give freely all of the extra accommodations, right? I want you to think about that. If you can qualify for accommodations, I want you to see the Disability Resource Center. And I know that there are a lot of students that are really hesitant to get involved with the Disability Resource Center because they don't want to have a label. They don't think that they want special help on something. But I'm going to say that it'd be really important if you know that you have a documented condition that might need, you have migraines, and every once in a while you get a flare up and you're laid out for 3 or 4 days. And if that happens to be the week that you're writing an essay, oh my gosh, you might fail. If you had an accommodation, then legally that instructor has to provide maybe extra time on that, or flexibility in that deadline, right? Maybe you need more time to take a math test. So I really want you to be, knowing sort of what are the resources that are available on campus and how do you get involved with those. But really the only way that an instructor can be extra, accommodating is if we have the ability to do so because it's by law. I'm going to give an example in my own personal life. So I needed, in one quarter, I went to Central Washington University, and it was in the winter time, and I had a communication studies class, and I missed more than 3 days because I have asthma and I had to take breathing treatments. And so I had to use an accommodation because I missed more than 3 days that quarter, and it had never happened in all the rest of my time. But it was that one quarter. Thankfully, I had my accommodation set up so that I could have that flexibility on top. Okay, so I've just blasted so many different things. I want you to be thinking about yourself as a student and really being introspective, thinking about what is it you want to get out of your time at Bellevue College. How do you want to navigate through the system? What is reasonable for you, not for everybody else, not for everybody's plan for how they're going to do things. Does it change quarter to quarter, right? If we're thinking about schedules in the fall when students have so much energy, typically I notice that they're really able to take a full load of classes and they're just real jazzed and excited. And then winter quarter, maybe when you're thinking of scheduling classes in winter quarter, like 7 a.m. when it's dark and it's cold and it's rainy, and if we're on campus and you're trudging to class, and who wants to take math at 7 a.m., right? And then maybe you have the opposite issue in springtime. It's like maybe you don't want to be in a classroom at 3 p.m. because it's fun. And so really kind of trying to be strategic, right? And asking for what you need is about knowing yourself and being able to go to academic advisors and say, hey, this is what I know about myself. These are my interests. Could you help me pick classes that might be a really good fit for me this next quarter? I have to pick a History 146. Do you have an instructor that you think would work really well with me as a volleyball player? Right? Do you have any advice on instructors, times of day, when things should be taken in what quarter? I really also recommend students go to the Academic Success Center. They have a writing lab, a math lab, there's tutors for almost every single subject. And there's so many people that are willing to help you if you can ask, but I really want students to do it, right? I really want students to introduce themselves, send an email, ask their instructor their preferred way of contact. Like for me, my email inbox gets really bogged down. And so, I appreciate being contacted outside of email, but a different instructor is going to have a different experience. Also know that if you send an email at 8 p.m. on Friday, most people aren't in the office until Monday morning. It's a little bit like if you roll up to your favorite restaurant. I don't know, maybe it's lunchtime and I'm hungry, having so many food metaphors, right? But you roll on up to your favorite restaurant and you see, dang it, they don't open till 4. Oh shoot, dinner menu doesn't start till 4, right? Or grocery stores or other places, just knowing that the person on the end of that email, they're not working 24/7. right? And so it's kind of important to think about how long it does take for somebody to get back to you, to get you information. It's probably not going to be instantaneous. This also goes for grading. I have a flexible grading policy for some late work during COVID times, right? And I had a student turn in something missing, and I was like, okay, you have, opportunity to get full credit. It's a couple days late. That's okay. You life circumstances, and I've extended that to the whole class. And they're like, okay, I turned in some missing work. Is it graded? And I was like, you turned it in like 12 seconds ago. I haven't gotten to it yet. Like it goes on the bot, I have this whole like process that I have to get to. It might take a week. I promise that I will get to it, but it might take a while. So just know that you're really talking to people. If you're talking to people, I would say every instructor I've met at the campus wants students to succeed. We want families to be satisfied. We want you all to have a great experience, right? And we are people. And so really be mindful when you're picking out those classes and in those first few days when you're looking at that syllabus and you're reading through it and you're thinking, yeah, this is a contract. This syllabus is a contract. This is what I'm signing up for. This is what I'm consenting to agree to for grading policy and topics being covered and how I'm going to conduct myself in the class. Like maybe your instructor has like no headphones in class and you're choosing to stay in that class. You're saying, okay, I'm going to take my headphones off. I'm not going to put my feet on the desk. I'm not going to, chew bubble gum, whatever you're consenting to. I think it's really important. So I hope that your time at Bellevue College is amazing. I know that staff, faculty, we're all here to help. So please reach out. But remember to be kind because, kindness matters. I think that's a song.
Hi students, I'm Deepthi Karkhanis, a psychology instructor at Bellevue College. I joined the college in fall of 2013 and I currently serve as the program chair for the psychology department. Today, I would like to share with you 5 differences between high school and college so I can help you be ready for success in your college classes. First, academic expectations are much higher in college and good grades can be achieved with effort and regular communication with your instructors. Second, in high school, teacher student contact is close and frequent in classes that meet 5 days a week. But in college, classes meet less often, sometimes only once a week, and sometimes never if it's a fully online class. And faculty are usually available only during office hours or by appointment. So make use of the office hours by meeting your instructor and asking any questions that you may have vis-a-vis the course content or expectations. Third, in college, the instructor distributes and discusses the syllabus during the first class and thereafter expects the students to read and follow the syllabus without having to be reminded about what will be done or what assignment is due in upcoming days or weeks. The syllabus is a very informative tool, and you are expected to read it often and refer to it when you have questions vis-a-vis course policies and assignments. Fourth, in high school, parents, teachers, and counselors support, give advice, and often make decisions for students. However, in college, students must learn to rely on themselves and begin to experience the result of their own good and bad decisions. It is your responsibility to seek advice when you may need it, to set your own boundaries, and manage time effectively. And finally, in high school, teachers often contact parents if problems occur. Parents are expected to help students in times of crisis. However, in college, students have much more freedom and must take responsibility for their own actions and grades. Work hard and earn your grades. Do not request to adjust grades and communicate properly and professionally with your instructors while not being demanding in your tone. Here, I wish you all the best and hope you have an enjoyable college experience.